Well, hello, everybody watching on Connect Live and Pivot Shift Ahead. It's your friend James Shaw. I trust you're doing all right. Excited to see you on this Wednesday. We gather every Wednesday at 1 Eastern, noon Central. Just talk about stuff to help you in your business, bring the right things to you. And we're going to do that today. Have a really important conversation. My friend Julia Lashay is with us. Hey, Julia, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you, James?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining us. Would you introduce yourself? There might be a handful of people watching who don't know who you are. Would you introduce yourself to everybody for me real
I
quick?
would love to. My name is Julia Lashay Israel. I'm the head of inclusion and belonging here at the fabulous Keller Williams Realty International office. And my role is to help us all grow our businesses through diversity, equity, and inclusion.
There's so much opportunity, and when you embrace diversity and inclusion, it only opens up more opportunity to your business, and that's what we're going to talk about today. And we're having this conversation based around Juneteenth, which is Sunday. We'll celebrate it at Keller Williams on Monday. We observe that as a holiday here. So KWRI will be closed on Monday, and many market centers will probably be closed on Monday. But so we'll observe it then. Julia, here's the thing, though. For many people watching, this celebration of Juneteenth is something that really only came to light in the last couple of years, and it might be new to some people, while others have known about it and celebrated and honored it for a long time. Would you be willing to educate those of us who don't really know the meaning of Juneteenth and what we're celebrating on Sunday and Monday?
Absolutely, I would love to, and that's totally fair. When I was a child, James, the only thing I knew about Juneteenth, my mother used to be on the board in our city for the Juneteenth celebration. So all I knew was Juneteenth was the day that we were going to go to the park and have this huge picnic, and I had to work. That's all I knew about Juneteenth. But what it really is Juneteenth is an annual holiday. Now it's a national holiday since last year, commemorating the end of slavery in the United States of America. So long ago, in 1863, Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation. However, slaves in Texas did not know that they were free. Galveston, Texas, the word had never come. So someone rode in on a horse and said, hey, and by the way, slaves were freed 2 years ago. And that date was June 19th that happened. So it became a celebratory moment that has been celebrated ever since the late 1800s, celebrating when the last slaves were freed in the United States. And in early times, that celebration and observing that day involved people getting together and really looking for family members that had been estranged and celebrating and just a time to uplift each other. And it continued for many years as a really kind of like a family reunion of sorts. Where in a lot of cities, they have huge festivals and celebrations and things of that nature. And so, as you said, for some of us, my whole life, we've celebrated Juneteenth. And for others, it's the first time they've heard about it when they found out their office was being closed, you know?
Right,
So,
right. Yeah. It's interesting. When I was growing up, I grew up in Indianapolis, and I worked at the Children's Museum in Indianapolis, which is an amazing place, by the way. If you ever have a chance to go, even if you're an adult, you would love it. But it was one of the very few places, I mean, I'm talking in the 80s and 90s, it was one of the very few places that observed Juneteenth at any kind of level in Indy. And so I learned about it there, and yet didn't fully understand the meaning or purpose behind it. I'd heard of it. And yet there are so many people that are like, well, what is this? And yeah, why are we off? And so now we know. And I just imagine being free, and yet you don't know for 2 years. Like that baffles me. And certainly it's got to have a time to reflect, and yet a time to celebrate as well. And so the reason we're having the conversation today is, whether we like to admit it or not, there are foundationally some things, the way this country was designed and set up, that has created a gap in wealth that still exists today in 2022, that we can help fix, Julia. And that's what we want to talk about is how we can be a solution moving forward by embracing more diversity in our business and understanding the history. So,
yes.
Let's start with that, because you and I were talking beforehand. I mean, when we were kids, someone could still be discriminated against when it came to purchasing a home. This has been a long journey.
Mm-hmm. Right. So while Juneteenth, persists as a joyous reminder of what Black people have overcome, it's also kind of a solemn remembrance of centuries of oppression. And it wasn't for 100 years after that. Some people might say, why are we celebrating the end of slavery? It was so long ago. But it wasn't for 100 years later that it even became illegal to discriminate in housing and allow Black people to have housing, in non-discriminatory ways. And it wasn't until 20 years after that that fair housing was even enforced. Many people don't understand that fair housing wasn't enforced until 1988. That's what we were talking about, James. You were 11, I was 7, when it actually was enforced that you can't discriminate in housing based on someone's race. So being that was only 30 years ago, 32 years ago, we are at a place in real estate where there are large disparities that exist as a result of our past history. And so there is what you call a wealth gap, and a home ownership gap that exists and persists. And that's the beauty of this all. This is where we come in. This is where we have an opportunity to write a new history, and write a really bright future for everyone. And that's what excites me, is the opportunity that we have to play a really instrumental role in American society.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I feel like if you could go help a family become a first-time home buyer, they may be the first person to own a home in their family's history, and now you've changed future generations because of that. So what are some strategies that we can utilize, understanding that we are celebrating Juneteenth this weekend? What are some strategies that we can utilize to help reduce the home ownership gap, reduce the wealth gap, and change some lives of people in our community?
My favorite thing to do. So I am of the belief, James, and if you've taken my unconscious bias class, you understand what unconscious bias is. I have a very conscious bias. My conscious bias is Keller Williams agents are the best agents on the face of the earth. That is my conscious bias. And it's because we talk about things like this and we get educated about things like this. So the first thing is just educate yourself just a little bit and then go out there into the community. There's going to be a ton of things going on this weekend that we can participate in. And you don't have to be Black to participate in this. It's not a Black holiday. It's a holiday for everyone. It's a national holiday. Yep. And so if it was me, I would go out there to some of these Juneteenth events and festivals and things. I would gather myself a bunch of names of the people that I meet out there to add to my database. And I would start to send them, set up a smart plan and send them information about becoming a homeowner. And I would probably gather a bunch of people, put them in my database, send them an email, say, hey, I'm having a first-time homebuyer workshop next week. I'd love for you to come.
Yeah.
And we have all the tools for you to do that if you want to do something like that. There is an entire first-time homebuyer workshop toolkit that you can use to do that. And then I would also I would promote the book. We got this new Your First Home book, where I would allow some of those.
This is it right here. We got it. Yeah, it comes out in September, right? I think so. I got a copy right here. I'll sell it to you.
That I would use all those tools. We got a ton of tools to use, but I would use this opportunity. Our role in this and our role in Juneteenth, no matter who you are, is that this is a great opportunity to go out into the community, celebrate with everyone, and help people get into homeownership. It is National Homeownership Month. How fitting. So I think that's how I would celebrate it. And if you want to know more about it, just simply get a little more educated about it and going out in the community to these events. I'm sure you could Google Juneteenth in whatever city you're in and just go out and participate and take your kids and, learn some things and meet some people and have a good time.
And I think Grace is putting the links for the homebuyer workshop materials in the chat. And then a couple of weeks ago, we did a conversation with Kimberly Meserve, who does a ton of homebuyer workshops. She gave you her whole model. She told you how to do it. So you can find that in both Connect and Pivot Shift Ahead. So if you need a guide on how to do that, I think it's really interesting because you could have a mindset. There are certain groups of people that have a mindset that home ownership isn't possible for them. Either their parents, I'm not talking about specific races or ethnicities. I'm just saying that if you grew up in a family where home ownership never happened, and you may not see it as an option when it really is. People lack education, Julia. That's what we've got to do, is help educate. That's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, because think of it, James, we're not even an entire generation away yet from when, like you said, we were children when fair housing was actually enforced and it was illegal, so we're not very far off. So for my team, in fact, easily over half of our clients are first-time home buyers, many of them first-generation home buyers. No one in their entire lineage has ever owned a home, and so it's a great opportunity, for us to step in and take that place. We are the solution. We are the people.
I talked to somebody, I remember when you and I had a conversation similar to this a year ago, and I talked to somebody about it beforehand, and they go, why am I concerned about fair housing from 1988 when it's 2022? So why are we still looking at fair housing challenges from 1988 when it's 2022?
Yeah, because it's kind of like you mentioned, being that that is still fairly recent. We have a huge homeownership gap in general in the United States. About 65 to 70% is our national homeownership rate at any given time. 70% for white households is kind of where it lives right now, and it's 42% for Black households. That's a great disparity that exists there. And so as a result of the past, and that we're not too far away, that's what's become. I love the part about the fact that we are the solution, because many of us don't really understand the magnitude of our role. I think we talk units and we talk volume and we talk, all this fun, sexy stuff about real estate, but understanding that most people in the United States build wealth through the acquisition of real estate. And we are the people on a daily basis that literally transfer the wealth of America from one hand to the other every single day. Like, that's a big deal. Land ownership is a big deal. People are fighting wars about it right now. So we have an opportunity to be very impactful in so many people's lives. But in order to really get to a joyous future where we can say, look at us, look what we did, we have to understand, where we've come from and really where we are right now, and that we are in the moment with the biggest opportunity to make the biggest impact. And we have enough people to do it. I think we're just now over 175,000 agents. That's an army. We got an army of people who can go out and single-handedly really change the trajectory of wealth and homeownership for millions of people.
Well, you become a hero for generations when you're willing to go out and educate and help people see the opportunity, and truly willing to look back on the last 2 years to see what can happen to home. My house has doubled in value in the time I've owned it. We've owned it like 6 years. It's doubled in value in that time based on the last 2 years. Think about the possibilities that are there for people. So you're saying go connect, reach out first. Look, I can go to a Juneteenth event just like Julia can go to one, right? So it's totally okay. Any of us can go connect in our community. That's our job anyway. We're connectors of the community. That's what we do. And then build relationships, figure out where somebody is on their journey. And if somebody believes homeownership isn't possible for them, educate them through the tools that you've provided and change lives. Now you have other resources too to be able to help people, because we've got agents that say, look, I want to learn more about this. I want to help everybody in my community. I want to be somebody that recognizes that people think differently and behave differently and have different challenges than me. So what are some resources for that?
Yeah, well, for us, two of the huge initiatives we've been doing over the last year plus are teaching the color of real estate and unconscious bias in real estate. And the color of real estate is just that. It talks about our role, how impactful we are in real estate, and making sure that we are, I like to say, reaching all of the market, not just some of the market. So if you've not yet taken the color of real estate or unconscious bias, I would love for you to join me for those. And you can always find those at kwlearningcenter.com. Anyone can come. You don't have to be a KW agent. That is open to the entire public. And then we actually have created a specific KW diversity certification for our agents. And the purpose of this, James, is for people who sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, and there's a lot to know. And so we've created a certification that will help you understand. It's 5 short modules, and you learn, how to grow through our differences and the beauty of our differences and all the different dimensions of diversity. Like we mentioned, it's Pride Month, it's Juneteenth, it's National Homeownership Month. Last month was AAPI month. I'm really learning about all the different dimensions that exist that we should be aware of in our businesses. Honestly, for fair housing violations, the number one violation is against people with disabilities. Has nothing to do with race at all. And sometimes we overlook that. So we talk about that, ASL, people with special needs. We talk about that, even language that we use in our business may be unintentionally offending people, and we don't even realize we're losing clients because we don't know what we don't know. So we talk about being more inclusive in your advertising and all of those things. And that's in our Agent of Distinction, we call it, certification. So I would highly recommend that. We have provided all the tools, training, and resources you need to reach all the market not just some of the market, and even learn how to celebrate holidays that may not be your own. Maybe you're there and someone's out there and it's like, Juneteenth isn't really my thing. That's not for me. You still have an opportunity to reach a mass of people through Command, through the designs that we provide in Command. Every month we have diversity designs about every cultural holiday that exists that we know of. And you can share those with your database and just show yourself to be an inclusive agent, and you'll get more business. Inclusive businesses make more money.
No doubt about it. And you can be an ally to any marginalized community on this planet. And you don't have to, you can be a straight person that goes to a Pride festival, and you can be a white guy that goes to the Juneteenth celebration, and we can learn and grow together and just help our communities. I think that's so important. Grace has posted the links for everything
Grace.
Julia just talked about in the chats, which are really important. Okay, I know, Julia, we're up against the clock, and so I want to get all the good stuff in. So if you were going to give, our agents, you had a plea, a pro tip, something that our community needs to know when it comes to being inclusive, to being welcoming, and to supporting everybody in the community on that path to home ownership, what is that?
I would just say, start with yourself. Where are you at with your own personal dispositions about all of this, and become comfortable with our differences. And they're beautiful, but it's really important, especially, James, as our demographics are shifting and changing. It's going to be critical in our businesses just for us to be a little more self-aware and accepting other perspectives and different cultures and things of that nature. Half of the United States population right now is under 40 years old. Half of the United States population is a millennial or younger. And Gen Z, which is after me, I'm a millennial. I barely slid in there. I'm 40 years old. I barely made it. But Gen Z, the generation after me, 50% of Gen Z are people of color. These are our first-time home buyers, our future home buyers. 19 is the median age, So just becoming comfortable, learning as much as you can, get educated about our differences. Take the diversity certification. It will definitely help you grow. I love our BOLD law. Your business grows to the extent that you do. If we just continue to educate ourselves about the beauty of our differences, our businesses will flourish. Yeah.
I just think, I think be narrow in your focus on where you're working, and be broad in your knowledge and understanding of who's in your community so you can support everybody. That's the lesson. And support the things. Here's what I tell you. If you sit and you think, I don't need to take unconscious bias, I don't need agent of distinction, you should be in there. That's the proof in and of itself that you probably should be in there and participate in that and learn in that and grow in that. So,
and go to Juneteenth events, Google it, find one in your area and have yourself some fun.
We're looking them up. We're going to look them up, and Naomi and I are going to go find something Saturday or Sunday here in the Tampa Bay area, and we're going to celebrate because it's a big deal and it's exciting, and we should do so. Julia, you're awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for taking time out to join us today and educating us. I love the resources that you've shared. Absolutely the best. And you've been in team meetings and doing stuff in regions and all that kind of stuff, but you gave us all the tools that we need. Grace shared the links in the chat.
Yeah, I hope so.
No doubt about it. Julia, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate you. To those of you watching, thank you so much for joining us too. Happy Juneteenth this weekend, and thanks for being here. We'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.